Welcome back to Ford Field in Detroit. The Lions and Packers set to renew their long-standing acquaintanceship here in the Lions home opener. And before we kick it off, let's check in with a third member of our broadcast crew, Carissa Thompson.
Well, guys, Detroit's defensive tackle, Corey Redding, has had his mind focused on a little bit more than just football this week. His mother, Mary, stayed in his hometown of Houston and has been feeling the effects of Hurricane Ike. Now, the good news is he spoke to her last night. She is okay. But Corey knows all too well about hurricanes. He was 12 years old when Hurricane Andrew struck the shores of Miami. His grandmother was bedridden, so he was forced to stay there. And you guys, the National Guard couldn't even get to him. He had to climb the trees and eat bananas and mangoes for weeks on end. He still can't eat those things to this day, so you can see why he's so relieved that his mother, Mary, is okay.
Well, Carissa, thank you. And certainly from everybody at Fox Sports, our best to everybody dealing with the hurricanes in that part of the world. Hopefully that has a happy ending for those affected. And again, our best to everybody affected. Set for football here in Detroit, where the weather hasn't been nearly as uncooperative as it's been in other places. And it doesn't really matter. Under the dome of Ford Field is Will Blackman, the reigning special teams player of the week in the NFC, is ready to start us by returning the opening kick. The veteran kicker Jason Hansen gets it started, and week 2 in Detroit is underway. Blackman from the Packers end zone. Across the 10 and the 15, where he is met head on. Still bouncing. And he almost got out of the scrum, wrapped up shy of the 20 by Jordan Dyson, the rookie linebacker, who thinks it's a live football. Well, as we take a look at the starting lineups for Aaron Rodgers, JC, the first thing that stands out is the fact that that offensive line did such a great job keeping him clean against the vaunted Vikings pass rush on Monday.
And that's key. They didn't give up any sacks, no turnovers, but Aaron Rodgers also played a part in that with his movement. His feet and his legs, he was able to escape pressure. They get him out on bootlegs, so he helps that offensive line just as much as they keep him clean.
That's his left.
Well, Rodgers ready to go to work for his first road offensive series as an NFL starter. Lining up with Ryan Grant, the deep back, who is out there starting despite a dicey hamstring. A 3-receiver set starts it for the Packers with Donald Driver in motion. And the first down handoff is to the former Notre Dame standout, who's tripped up just past the 20 by the middle linebacker Paris Lennon. A former Packer makes the first tackle for the Lions. Defensively, this group was run on quite a bit in Atlanta. As the front line stays the same, they've had some changes in the starting backfield. Player that wears the green dot, the communications headset, is middle linebacker Paris Lennon. Lee Bodden replacing Travis Fisher, starting at right corner. That's the most significant defensive change for the Lions. 2nd and 8 on this opening drive. The handoff to Grant again. And this time the big boy Chuck Darby is there to answer the call.
And defensively, the Lions, they could not wait to get to this game today. And NFL teams normally don't play as badly as the Lions played in week 1, 2 weeks in a row. These guys were embarrassed. They were confused. They were frustrated. And they couldn't wait to get back out here and redeem themselves.
Boy, they were really beat up in the first quarter, as those numbers indicate. And that defense wants to send an early message at home here. Ryan Grant in the backfield. Packers converted 30%, check that, 40% of their third downs last week. So Rodgers out of the shotgun. Pass is caught by Brandon Jackson. No gain on the play. 3 and out. Starts the afternoon for the visiting Pack as Paris Lennon is there again.
And you see the emotion that they have already looks much better than what they brought to the field last week against Atlanta. These guys are fired up, and like I said earlier, they were embarrassed thoroughly as a team, and they were challenged all week by their coach, Rod Marinelli, to come out and show everybody what kind of team they really are.
And by this time last week, it was already 7-0 Atlanta. First-year punter Derek Frost on to kick it away. Mike Furry, the deep man for the Lions. He fields the punt at the 30 and looks for some room near the sideline. Tackled at the 37-yard line by Desmond Bishop. Well, John Kitna also wants to make amends after a tough opener. Kitna was 24 of 33 with a couple of TDs and a pick in his first game of 2008. You take a look at his weaponry. Kevin Smith once again in the backfield with him. The rookie tailback who is the nation's leading rusher at Central Florida last year.
And they've got this new philosophy where they want to come out, they want to be a physical running football team, but you see right away they come out with 4 wide receivers on the field.
Roy Williams moving around at the top of your screen. Kitna out of the shotgun, and his first down pass is caught by Calvin Johnson. They went right to work on Charles Woodson, and as we take a look at the Packers defensively, JC, there are some health questions for Green Bay.
And you mentioned Charles Woodson. He's a guy that's going to get tested early and often today, playing with a fractured toe. He hurt that toe on Monday night against the Vikings, so the Lions have to come out and test him, see if he can run, see if he can plant, change directions.
Nick Barnett wears the green dot for the defensive signals in a Packer uniform. So after an 8-yard gain, second and a short 2, the hand is to the rookie tailback Kevin Smith, who's got the first down. Ryan Pickett made the tackle for the Packers after a 4-yard gain. Kind of a mixed bag for Smith in that opener in Atlanta, JC. 16 carries, 4 yards on the ground. He caught a few passes and showed some flashes.
He did, but they really couldn't get into their offensive philosophy because they were down 21-0 in the first quarter. So they really couldn't pound the run with Kevin Smith like they wanted to. They want to come out and establish that early today.
Johnson in motion. Kitna's handoff is met at the line of scrimmage. Just a couple of yards for Kevin Smith as A.J. Hawk and Aaron Campman combine on the tackle. Some help from Ryan Pickett inside. You know, back to John Kitna, JC, and we went through his numbers. He was sacked 3 times at Atlanta in that opener. Pass protection has been a long-standing problem here in Detroit. Kitna's been sacked 117 times since the start of the 06 season.
Way too many, and that's why they want to run the football more, and that's going to help in that sack number.
Back to pass on first down. Boy, that's in and out of the hands of the normally reliable Roy Williams.
They're not going to get zone very much, but you're going to see Al Harris just runs off here in cover 3, and Roy Williams is wide open. He's got to make these catches. He's the big play wide receiver. He wants the ball to be thrown more. He told us, hey, I still think we should throw the ball more than we run it. That's what we do best. Well, if you're going to do that, you got to catch the balls when you have the opportunity.
Williams caught 3 passes for 47 yards, including a touchdown in the opener in Atlanta on Sunday. So 3rd and 8 now for Kitna. Nickel package on the field for the Packers. Detroit struggled on 3rd down last year. Kitna's in trouble trying to get out of it. A.J. Hawk wraps him up at midfield, and that'll bring on the Lions punting unit.
They just get pressure from all over. Campman's going to come from the outside. Cullen Jenkins inside. See, they just beat their individual blockers up front, and Kitna really has no time to really look down the field and get rid of the ball.
So Will Blackman deep to return the punt. He took one back for a touchdown again last week in the opener on Monday. Nick Harris on to punt it away, and it's a short kick. Heading for the sideline, and it bounces out of bounds at the 13. Aaron Rodgers back to work in his 2nd road series when we come back in less than 2 minutes. Well, not much in the way of offense on either team's first possession this afternoon. The Packers will begin this 2nd possession from their own 14. Rodgers, of course, with the big day Monday in their opening day win against the rival Vikings, as Ryan Grant is wrapped up by Corey Redding for a loss.
Corey Redding, he told us that penetration is the key. You're going to watch him inside, watch him just get off the ball and get up the too quick inside for Mark Tauscher to come down and block him. You can see he is fired up and he is ready to go, but that's the key against this offense and the type of runs that they run is you got to get penetration up the field.
The undrafted free agent rookie out of Georgia, Craig Lumpkin, takes over for Ryan Grant in the backfield on 2nd and 12. Rodgers changing the play in the always loud Ford Field. pressure. Rodgers gets the pass away, and it's caught for a first down by the former Western Michigan star Greg Jennings. As we check in for the first time this afternoon in Los Angeles with Kurt Menefee.
All right, guys, keeping an eye on the north. Chicago's Darryl McClover blocks the Jason Baker punt of Carolina. Brandon Lloyd says thank you. Easiest 7 points he'll ever score. 9-yard touchdown. Bears on top of the Panthers, 7-0. Back to Matt, JC, and Carissa.
Kurt, thanks. And apparently the Bears are not who we thought they were to start the year. Off to a fantastic start. Lumpkin in the backfield again on 1st and 10. Rodgers keeps it and dumps it off over the middle to Lumpkin, who is tackled shy of the 30 by Paris Lennon. Lennon already with 3 stops for the game. You know, back to Aaron Rodgers, JC, and the opener he had on Monday with the world looking in. His completion percentage, nearly 82%. Was one of the best in NFL history for a guy making his first NFL start.
And the amount of pressure that he was under playing that first game after all of the offseason talk with Brett Favre, and you know, for him to come out and play well says a lot about that young man mentally.
2nd and 7, play action. Rodgers looking over the middle in Favre-like manner, but that one is overthrown for Greg Jennings. 18 of 22 Monday in the win at home over the Vikings. The 4th best single game completion percentage in Packer history, and a mark that Brett Favre only eclipsed once in his career. And
they weren't all easy throws. He threw the ball all over the field. And watch this Lambeau leap right here, or lack of. He took a lot of heat from his friends about his lack of vertical jump, but everybody was very happy for him in the way that he played in that first game out.
Yeah, Greg Jennings told us, you know, the points stayed on the board despite the bad leap. 3rd and 8, Lions have the nickel package on the field. They put Brandon Jackson in the slot, and the pass caught by Jennings again for another Packer first down. So the Kalamazoo native coming back to his home state already with a couple of receptions, a 13-yard pickup there.
Yeah, they did a good job of motioning Brandon Jackson out of the backfield, but good protection. This ball is going to come out real quick. And that's another reason. But watch Brandon Jackson take Ernie Sims right out of that hole and allows Aaron Rodgers to throw that quick slant to Greg Jennings.
Ryan Grant checks back in the backfield for the Pack. 1st and 10 for Rodgers from the 40. And this is Jackson. Tried to get around the corner, but Ernie Sims was there to get Grant. That's Ryan Grant, the ball carrier. So a gain of 4 on 1st down.
And that's not where Ryan Grant wants to run the ball, to the outside. He said, hey, I'm a punishing runner. I want to go straight ahead, make one cut, and then punish the defense and wear them down. He said, if I've got to run side to side, that's not what I do best. And he said he just tries to stay within himself. He's not a flashy runner. He wants to punish people.
We'll keep our eyes on Grant on the sideline. He was on the bike when he was not on the field Monday. And now Brandon Jackson takes his place. The tight end Donald Lee in motion on 2nd and 6. Jackson, the ball carrier this time. Another Packer first down as he passes midfield.
That's just another personnel grouping that really Donald Lee becomes like a fullback. Going to see him motion in right here and watch him just lead up inside. Just going to lead up inside. Tony Mall, number 75, they just fire off the ball, and that's a package where you think he's a receiver, but now he motions back to the inside and really becomes your fullback.
And the Packers mixing it up nicely on the drive. Here's Rodgers out of the shotgun, goes through his reads and finds an open Donald Driver just short of a first down. Ernie Sims had the coverage.
And you see that time they go empty formation. They bring a lot of wide receivers on. They're going to do a lot of different personnel groupings, a lot of formations, especially early in the game, to see how the Lions are going to adjust, if they adjust, how they play it. So then as the game progresses, Mike McCarthy knows exactly what to call and what he's going to get with each formation.
Pro set now with Grant in the backfield. 2nd and 2, and flags before the snap. If it was motion, it was a problem for the Packers on Monday.
False start, 76, offense, 5-yard penalty, still 2nd down.
Let's check in on the field with Carissa Thompson.
Well, guys, Corey Hall, who caught that TD pass in Monday night's game, is out with a knee injury and is questionable for a return.
All right, Carissa, thanks. Boy, that would be a blow. One of two fullbacks on the active roster for this one for Green Bay. So John Kuhn, the ex-Steeler, will take Hall's place at the fullback spot. Well, that penalty, something that really troubled Mike McCarthy and the Packers despite the win on Monday. So 2nd and 7 now for Rodgers, down the middle of the field into traffic and almost intercepted. Daniel Bullocks was the closest body to that football.
Well, Paris Lennon did a great job running through the middle. They call that closing the middle of the field in this Tampa 2 defense. The safeties have deep half the field, so the soft spots are in the middle and on the sidelines. You got to have that inside backer, Paris Lennon, running through there to close that middle. That's why Rod Marinelli told us the inside linebacker position in this defense is the toughest spot to play.
This will be the 10th play of the drive for the Packers, 3rd and 7. Packers used the shotgun more than any team in the league last year. Rodgers on the run for his life, and he dumps it off for a first down. James Jones, who always wants the ball, according to the other receivers on this Packer roster, has the first down for Green Bay.
Yeah, what receiver doesn't? But this is a good job by Aaron Rodgers. Again, being the mobile guy that he is, he can get away from pressure. Watch him slide and run away from pressure, but he's not running to run the ball. His eyes are down the field, buying more time for his receivers, and they call this the scramble rules. When Aaron Rodgers gets out and scrambles, there's always a guy coming back to the quarterback, and there's always a guy going deep over the top, and he's got his pick of which guy's open.
So the Packers have converted 2 of their 3 on 3rd down. 1st and 10 here inside Lion territory. And another flag. You know, we talked about the false starts against the Vikings.
Delay of the game, offense, 5-yard penalty, still first down.
Now Walt Coleman gives the bad news to Mike McCarthy. Yeah. 6 of the 12 penalties called against the Packers Monday were charged to the offensive line.
And you can live with effort penalties. You know, if the guys are coming off and you get a hold accidentally, you can live with that. But the mental errors, the jumping off sides, lining up the wrong way, those are mental errors that are inexcusable. And, you know, part of the reason is they're not getting out of the huddle quick enough, getting the personnel groupings in.
A 4-receiver set. Rodgers pass over the middle, caught again by Greg Jennings at the 30, just short of a first down already. The 3rd ball for Jennings this afternoon.
And the Packers, they run a lot of slants. They've done that for years. Just going to come up and run the slant, but watch Donald Lee clear it out. Look at Ernie Sims. He comes too early. Paris Lennon can't get over there quick enough, and now you've got a hole. You've got a lane that Aaron Rodgers can throw that ball into on that slant.
Luck in the deep back for Green Bay. 12th play of the drive. 2nd and 3. Here's the former Georgia Bulldog to the 10-yard line for a first down before Daniel Bullocks can make the play. But that was a flashback to what happened to Detroit's defense in Atlanta on Sunday.
And a great block by the fullback, John Kuhn, the backup fullback. Corey Hall just went out, but boy, watch him lead block. Watch him lead up through. And a great block right there on the linebacker. That allowed Lumpkin to be able to hit it up inside.
Ryan Grant back in the backfield now on 1st and goal from the 10. And this is Grant trying that right side. The Packers had a lot of success running right last week against Minnesota, but Grant is stopped after maybe a 1-yard gain.
And what all of these runs do is they set up the boot action. For Aaron Rodgers, we saw him escape some pressure earlier, but off of this run, it looks exactly the same to the defense, but Aaron Rodgers will fake the ball in there and boot out the other side.
Again, a well-distributed drive for the Packers. Rodgers 7 of his first 9. They split Jackson out wide to the left. Rodgers looking that way. Instead, it's the fullback John Kuhn who can't hang on. You know, we'll see how much the fullback remains in the game plan here, JC, because the backup, the ex-Steeler, has not had a carry as a Packer, and he caught all of 2 passes last year.
But Mike McCarthy said, you know, he lets these guys play. He feels like they're all prepared. They practice hard. They challenge each other. That's why they have so many young guys. They're the youngest team in the league, again, for the 3rd straight year. He lets those young guys play.
They moved on to Lee in a bunch before the snap. Here's Rodgers out of the shotgun, showing some of his elusiveness and finding a target for a touchdown. James Jones. Rodgers got away from some big-time pressure by Jared DeVries to throw the 9-yard touchdown strike.
And it's a good thing that this wide receiver core is so unselfish and they don't care who catches the ball, because that pass was going to Greg Jennings, who was wide open in the corner, and James Jones just comes under it and takes the ball away from him for a touchdown.
Second-year kicker Mason Crosby on for the point after. Crosby caps off a 15-play, 86-yard drive. For the time being, at least, Wisconsin, your offense is in good hands. Well, the first NFL reception grab by the ex-San Jose State Spartan James Jones, and it makes it 7-0 Packers.
I guess he was right. Greg Jennings told us that James Jones is always, every day in the meeting, saying, I'm open. Throw it to 89, I'm open. I guess he was telling the truth.
So the Packers kick it away. Brandon Middleton, the deep man. The new kick returner for the Lions is out past the 30. We'll see if John Kitna has an answer in the first quarter. Just under 2 minutes to play in the opening quarter here at Ford Field in Detroit. The visiting Packers on top of the Lions 7-0. John Kitna ready to go back to work for his second series of the afternoon. Lions ran 7 plays before punting it away early in the first quarter. Kitna back to throw it on first down. And his pass is caught by the tight end Casey Fitzsimmons, who buckles through for a first down.
And here's what a mobile quarterback like Aaron Rodgers will give you. Look at Jared DeVries. He comes around. He almost gets the sack there at 2.7 seconds. But Rodgers is able to get away, buy some time with his feet. And now look, 5.4 seconds, and he's looking down the field, throws the ball for a touchdown. Greg Jennings is wide open here. You see James Jones breaks his route off and makes the catch. But if you've got to cover a receiver for 5 seconds, they're going to win every time.
Kevin Smith in the backfield with Kitna. He takes the handoff and is met at the line of scrimmage. Colin Cole making the stop for Green Bay. The ex-Lion who on Thanksgiving last year broke his forearm here at Ford Field. So a little score to settle for Cole today. He's going to bring up 2nd and 8 for the Lions. Well, the Lions are determined to establish that ground game. Last year, the fewest rushing attempts in the NFL. And Rod Marinelli has preached the same message to us, JC, for 2 straight weeks.
And in order to play that style, you have to play good defense, and you can't play from behind like they did last week and like they are right now.
2nd and 8, again on the ground with Smith. He breaks a big one for a Detroit first down. A 14-yard pickup for the rookie tailback. And
that's what they want. A good cut. They're going to try to get pushes here with everybody on the zone, and then just one cut. Right there, he jumps back behind Peterman and Dominic Raiola, and now he can jump up the field for big yards.
22 yards on 4 carries for Smith as the time winds down on this opening quarter in Detroit. Might have snuck up on somebody on the field. That's the end of the first quarter. Our score, Packers on top 7-0. We'll return after these messages from your local Fox station. The Lions have converted a first down on the drive as they switch directions inside of Packer territory. From the Green Bay 40, Smith is the back with John Kitna on 1st and 10. Kitna looking for the deep ball and just overthrown, intended for Roy Williams. Well, they found the coverage they wanted down that left sideline.
Yeah, they sure did. That's going to be a big matchup today. Al Harris is going to blanket Roy Williams all day, and you see they move him in motion just to get him off the line of scrimmage. And now he just runs that stutter and go and gets away. They don't think that Al Harris really runs well. They don't think he's that fast. So if they can avoid the bump at the line of scrimmage by moving Roy Williams, then they think they can run by him. And that's exactly what they did there.
We see Rudy Johnson check in, but it's Kevin Smith who's the ball carrier, met for a loss. Let's check in Los Angeles once again with Kurt Menefee.
Well, guys, it could be another long day for the Rams against the Giants. Not much pressure on Eli here as he steps up, finds a wide open Petlico Burris. 33 yards on the score. Giants up like that. 7-0. Back to Matt, JC, and Carissa.
Kurt, thanks. Yeah, we get done talking about Al Harris, and the next thing out of our mouths was going to be Plexico Burris and the show he put on in the NFC Championship game at his expense last year. 3rd and 10 now. There's Harris at the top of your screen working on Roy Williams. Kitna looks in his direction again, dumps it off for Calvin Johnson, and it's dropped. Well, that's the second one that's been dropped by the very strong wideout core here for the Lions.
Yeah, we saw Roy Williams earlier, and now Calvin Johnson, and he's a guy that was called out this week. Those guys, Jared Bush, a couple of those corners for the Packers, said that, hey, Calvin Johnson, he can't get off the line of scrimmage. He's too robotic. They call him Megatron, but he said he's too robotic. He's too easy to get your hands on him, and once you do, then he's done. He's got to make those plays.
Will Blackman is deep to receive the Nick Harris punt. Blackman starts the return at the 16. Sean McDonald makes the special teams tackle. Rodgers back to work in the second quarter. Well, the bad starting field position did not deter the Packers in their last possession. An 86-yard touchdown drive. Some of their offensive leaders. Rodgers off to a good start. 8 for his first 11 on the road here today. 1st and 10 Pack from inside their 20. And Rodgers running the Favre-like play action. And Favre-like up top for a wide open Greg Jennings. Still not down on the turf. Dancing inside the 25. Daniel Bullocks finally wraps him up.
And there's that boot action that I talked about in that last series, and the Lions just get confused with it. They're not sure who they're supposed to cover. Greg Jennings comes down the field. He's going to run out and up. You can see Fisher falls down, but now the safety comes over, and he's supposed to watch him come off. Now on the other side, Lee Bonds is the guy that has to come all the way across the field, but that was Brian Kelly that fell down on that out route.
Jennings had a 56-yard reception on Monday, a 62-yarder here. The dump off to Lumpkin takes the Packers inside the 10. Boy, Greg Jennings, he looked like he was just playing keep away from a bunch of schoolyard kids. Got behind the coverage, was standing by himself, waving his arms, and it amounts in Aaron Rodgers' career-long pass completion.
And what it was, again, a breakdown mentally by the Lions. A guy trying to do too much. Dwight Smith tried to jump that crosser because Kelly fell down, and now he leaves the deep half wide open.
Ryan Grant, the deep back. He's a ball carrier running right and tackled at the 5-yard line by Dwayne White. A 3-yard gain.
You know, Corey Redding told us that last week when things went bad in Atlanta, guys just started freelancing pretty much, trying to do extra, not their own job, but somebody else's job, trying to make a big play, and it never works out. That's when bigger plays happen, and that was another example of things breaking down, and instead of a guy doing his own job, he wants to go make a big play and cover for someone else, and he gets beat.
2nd and goal from the 5-yard line. Inside the 5 is Grant, taken down at the 2 by Daniel Bullocks. Ryan Grant already with 7 carries on the afternoon. When he gets the ball 15 or more times, the Packers were undefeated last year. Boy, the Packers have really just had their way offensively here in the first half. And they're doing a great job mixing up their offense as Brandon Jackson checks into the backfield now. 3rd and goal.
4 wide receivers.
The trademark McCarthy spread him out. Touchdown Packers. Donald Driver, the 3-time Pro Bowler.
And that's what happens when you don't match up against those 4 wide receivers. The Lions didn't bring their dime package on. You got a linebacker on a wide receiver, and he's too deep. He doesn't understand that that guy, being that slot guy, he's just going to run right across the goal line and turn around and catch the ball. And Ernie Sims just couldn't get there quick enough.
39th career touchdown grab by Donald Driver. Here's Crosby for the point after. And the Packers off to a fast start on the road. Aaron Rodgers directing the Green Bay offense to a 14-0 lead. Detroit defense looking for answers early this season as Brandon Middleton takes a knee in the end zone. And John Kitna and the offense go back to work, down 14-0. Corey Redding and the Detroit Lions defensive front looking for the same kind of answers that they searched for in the first half in Atlanta last week. So John Kitna and the Lions offense playing catch up early again. 14-0 Packers. Johnson in motion on 1st down. And the pass caught out of the backfield by the rookie out of Furman, Jerome Felton. And let's check in once again with Carissa Thompson.
Well, Matt, Detroit's receivers having a hard time hanging on that football. Calvin Johnson headed back to the sidelines after that last series. He tossed his helmet, sat on top of the bench, put his head in his hands, and pounded his fists together, clearly frustrated with himself and this receiving corps.
Yeah, no question. They've got to be frustrated with themselves because they've got nobody to blame but themselves. Both he and Roy Williams have a drop that they should have caught. And they've got to make big plays for this offense. That's why they were drafted where they were drafted. That's why they're making the big dollar.
2nd and 7 for the Lions. And the hand is to Smith. Tackled at the 25 by Brady Papinga and Cullen Jenkins.
You can see just easy catches. Roy Williams comes out of his break. You got to make these catches. They keep the chains moving, give you another set of downs. Calvin Johnson running across the field just in his hands, and those are the drops that you can't have. Those guys are too good. There's too much expectation and responsibility on those 2 guys for this offense. The offense is built around those 2 guys. That's why they want to run the ball, to give them more opportunities, but they've got to produce out there.
Packers have the dime defense on the field on 3rd and 3. Kitna looking down the middle of the field. Down he goes. Aaron Campman. Only Tennessee's Kyle Vanden Bosch hit the quarterback more in 2007 as Campman gets to Kitna to bring on the Lions punting unit.
And the thing that makes Campman so good is he never stops working. Watch him working on George Foster right here. Good job just coming around, and George Foster just gives up on him. He stops his feet and tries to push Campman, and that's only helping him. Now he's got a free run to Kitna. He said this was his first time playing against George Foster, and he knew that he had some problems. You can see right there, all I did was give him a rip move, and I got by him.
Yeah, and it hasn't just been George Foster that's had his hands full with Campman. Somebody might have gotten a piece of that punt as it squibs across the 40 and out of bounds at the 33-yard line. A couple of sacks by the Packer defense have kept the Lions off the scoreboard today. Well, it turns out the punt was kicked away cleanly, and the Packers will have their best starting field position of the game as Rod Marinelli looks for answers. 0-4 for his career against the Packers. Empty backfield set as Rodgers begins the drive from the 37-yard line. And out of the gun down the middle of the field, and it's caught. The tight end Donald Lee with his second reception this afternoon, up Green Bay first down.
And the problem for the Lions is the same thing as last year. Their secondary, they're giving up too many yards. They revamped this secondary this year. They traded for Lee Bodden. They brought in Dwight Smith, Brian Kelly, but nothing has seemed to work. And they've been getting beaten. They got beat last week for a lot of yards through the air and a big touchdown, and just having too many problems in the secondary trying to cover guys.
And again, a different look on first down for the Packers here. Grant in the backfield. The Lions have the nickel package on the field. And this is Grant on the delayed handoff up the middle. He's up to the 36. Langston Moore makes the stop for Detroit. You know, we asked Mike McCarthy yesterday, JC, about the different looks and about how different this offense may look today with Rodgers as opposed to last year with Favre. They used the empty backfield and the shotgun more than any team in the league. He said it's a system thing. It wasn't a Brett thing.
Right. They haven't cut this playbook down for Aaron Rodgers at all. It's the exact same offense that they ran, and he can handle all of it mentally, physically. He makes all the right checks, run the pass, run the run, and this offense is running smoothly. Over the middle, juggled but hung on to by Greg Jennings as it gets the Packers to the Detroit 30, short of a first down. In talking with Aaron Rodgers yesterday, every NFL quarterback is prepared, but you get the sense that this 24-year-old first-year starter is extremely well prepared to handle this starting role. Well, he's not a young guy. He's sat behind Brett Favre for 3 years learning. He had to get better in practice, and that takes a lot of self-motivation, obviously, from him. But he was able to sit back and learn, see the good and the bad that Brett Favre brought each and every week. And so now he's more prepared mentally than any really first-year starter. Four receivers set, Jackson in the backfield. Into the corner, touchdown Green Bay! Jordy Nelson, the rookie top pick wideout out of Kansas State. A 29-yard touchdown toss, the third TD throw for Rodgers in this first half. And a good read by Aaron Rodgers, too. Jordy Nelson just runs right by Brian Kelly. Kelly doesn't have enough speed, and Aaron Rodgers puts it right on the money for Jordy Nelson. Nelson was active on Monday against the Vikings, didn't catch a ball. His first NFL reception, good for 6 points. As the PAT is up and through it for the second consecutive week, the Lions trail 21-0 Green Bay. Watch Brian Kelly, the corner here, in bump and run man-to-man coverage, but there's no bump. He just opens and runs, and Jordy Nelson just runs right by him for a touchdown, and he's looking for help from Daniel Bullocks, but that's all on Brian Kelly. If you're going to get up and bump and run, you better get your hands on the guy, or else it's a foot race. Middleton deep for the Lions, and once again, he will take a delayed knee. Well, Detroit trying for some kind of momentum before halftime. But nothing but smiles for Aaron Rodgers. 14 of 17, over 200 yards and 3 touchdowns in the air. Quite lopsided are the first half passing numbers, all the first half numbers for that matter. My goodness, 9 yards of play for the Packers, just over 3 for the Lions. And if the Lions thought that the 21-0 deficit in Atlanta was rough last week. Kitna's first down pass caught by Roy Williams, who puts a move on Al Harris. There's a flag down on the play as Williams is bumped out of bounds at the 50-yard line.
Pass interference, 11. Offense, 10-yard penalty, still first down.
And that's why he got so open. Watch him coming off the ball, trying to move around to get away from that bump and run, and he just swims by. That's a tough call. And we saw him get one last week against Atlanta. There was a questionable call as well. But when you get those big, strong, physical receivers, those long arms, when they start pushing and swimming through, Roy Williams has gotten caught twice in 2 weeks for it.
Well, the Lions have all tried to play that Plaxico Burress style against the corners for the Packers. Woodson and Harris among the most aggressive in the game.
And you see that they're trying to move Roy Williams, putting him in short motion and return motion just to get Al Harris to back up a little bit and get out of his face.
1st and 20 now. Packers show blitz. Flags on the play. Kevin Smith, the ball carrier, stopped without a gain.
Offside, 96, defense, 5-yard penalty, still first down.
Michael Montgomery guilty of the penalty. This is the Plaxico Burress scheme that we were talking about earlier.
A bigger receiver, but you see he's got good footwork. He's not a long strider guy, so he can get in and out of his breaks. He can stop, he can change directions, and when you're a big guy that can do that, it makes it tough. And you see he's physical, right back. He's not taking any stuff off of Al Harris. The problem with the Lions wide receivers is they're not quick in and out of their breaks and off the line of scrimmage.
Getting it on the sideline, and that one incomplete, intended for Williams. Good coverage again by Al Harris. Good coverage in the studio once again as we check in with Kurt Menefee in LA.
We cover the entire league for you there, Matt. Pierre Thomas getting into the end zone for the Saints, and they have their first lead of the day over the Redskins, 7-6 in the second quarter. Matt, JC, and Clarissa.
Kurt, thanks. Looks like a beautiful day in D.C. in our nation's capital. The sun is shining. And the New Orleans Saints so far enjoying the road conditions, trying to go 2-0 on the year. Getting it back to throw again. And this one caught for a short gain by the tight end Casey Fitzsimmons, who was quickly snuffed out by Atari Bigby.
And you know, the corners for Green Bay, they're always talking about how easy it is to get their hands on these receivers, and you can see Roy Williams, Calvin Johnson, not a lot of room for either one of those guys to work because Green Bay corners can stick with them, and they throw the timing off by getting their hands up on them. And the difference with Plaxico Burress is he would move those guys, run the slants, get inside, swim, get back over the top, and these guys aren't quick enough to do that. Charles Woodson playing with an injured toe and so far showing no ill effects here today. 3rd and 10 now. Kitna out of the shotgun. Here comes the pressure. Kitna steps up but can't get away. The KGB combining with Aaron Campman, the 3rd Packers sack this afternoon. And you can put that one on John Kitna. Holding the ball too long. He knows that they're singled up in man coverage. He knows that the pressure's going to come. Watch Campman keep working around George Foster, KGB working on the other side, and Kitna's just got to get rid of this ball. That clock has got to be ticking in his head, and he's got to know, I've got to get rid of this ball at 2.5 to 3 seconds. Boy, that Campman-Foster matchup really starting to work out for the Packers. George Foster had to deal with John Abraham last week and had his hands full. So Blackman back to receive the punt inside the 40. Flags are down, but Blackman still on his feet. Ball's out. The Lions recover pending the penalty. Flags littering the field. And the steam blowing the hats off the officials' heads here as they debate this one.
We have 2 fouls on the return team. Illegal block in the back, 84. That penalty's declined. Holding, number 37 of the return team. That penalty's accepted. 10 yards, first down.
Either you drop in coverage or you bring a lot of pressure on Aaron Rodgers, because what they've done so far, they've given him too much time to just sit in the pocket, and somebody's always running free in the secondary.
Over 4 minutes and a full cachet of timeouts left for the Packers to try to get into the end zone again as Grant is across the 30, tackled by Sean Cody.
You know, Coach Marinelli said that they had a good week of practice. He thought they were prepared. And you can do all you want scheme-wise, but when you get to the game, the guys have to play. And it doesn't matter what scheme it is. Schemes very rarely make players, but players always make the scheme.
On second down, again, Rodgers gets away from pressure. And it's caught at the 35 by James Jones.
And what I mean by that, Matt, is you can draw up all the X's and O's you want as a defense to stop an offense. On paper, you can do that all you want. But when you get to the game, the guys have to execute that strategy, and they've got to make plays. It doesn't matter what. Just like on offense, you can draw it up any way you want, and it all looks great on the grease board. But the guys actually on the field have to make those plays for you. And the Lions, scheme-wise, yeah, you may say, oh, well, maybe they need to change schemes. But their players just aren't making plays for them.
3rd and 5, Rodgers out of the shotgun now. Dances out of trouble. Down deep for Nelson, just out of his reach. Well, Aaron Rodgers is so much more elusive than anybody may have thought entering the season.
And he was surprised because people made a big deal out of that on Monday night. He said, well, haven't you been watching me all these preseasons? Because he never plays in the regular season. But when you've got a quarterback that's this mobile, you put so much pressure on a defense, not only the guys up front rushing, but more importantly on the guys on the back end trying to cover and having to stay with those receivers for 4, 5, 6 seconds.
Detroit with a refreshing defensive 3 and out. Frost on to punt it away. And Mike Furry drops it. Fortunately for the Lions, a blue jersey fell on the football. Near disaster. Well, the last time the Lions and Packers met and Green Bay didn't have Brett Favre at the helm, it was September 8, 1991. Tony Mandarich in his 3rd season, his last with the Packers. Barry Sanders had a 4-yard TD run. And the Magic Man scored on a TD run for the Packers. Rodney Peete had a touchdown toss to Willie Green. Final score, Lions beat Green Bay 23-14. And Brett's leaving here again today. Time for the Lions to try to make something happen here as Kitna's first down pass is caught by Sean McDonald, his first reception of the afternoon.
And if you're the Lions, you're down 21-0 again. You've got to go to your 4 wide receiver package, and you pretty much have to stick to it. The running game hasn't been working. The whole premise of the running game was to force 8 guys in the box so that you could throw it. They've got to throw it all the time now.
Last play before the 2-minute warning. A dump off caught by Kevin Smith. He gets away from one tackler and is close to a Detroit first down before being tackled by Tramon Williams. 2-minute warning in Detroit, all Green Bay. Well, inside of the 2-minute warning now, and some time for Detroit to try to make something positive happen before the intermission. Lions have a full cachet of timeouts as well. Here's Kitna out of the shotgun on 3rd and 3, and he throws for a first down. It's Mike Furry gets his name in the box score for the first time this afternoon. Will Blackman made the tackle.
And that's where they're going to have to go. They're going to have to look at Mike Furry and Sean McDonald, their 3rd and 4th receivers, against the 3rd and 4th corners of the Packers, because the top 2 guys, they're being taken out of this game.
Flag on the play as the Lions spread it out. Another one caught by Furry. We'll see if it's coming back.
What I mean, they're 2 big guys. Calvin Johnson only has 1 catch for 8 yards. Roy Williams has 0 catches. So the cornerbacks of the Packers are winning that matchup so far. So now you've got to look to your next 2 guys to try to make something happen for you.
Illegal shift, 2 men moving and not resetting. Offense, 5-yard penalty, still first down.
So that latest Furry catch negated by another mistake, and it's 1st and 15 for Detroit. Well, we all know that new systems take a little bit of time to get going, but the Lions struggled offensively last week, and in part because the defense put them in such a big hole early. Same can be said here this afternoon. On 1st and 15, Kitna dumps it off for Smith. Smith back to the original line of scrimmage and close to a first down.
And Matt, to your point, if you're going to play the type of offense that they want to play, where you're going to be a physical running team, your defense has to play well because you're not going to score a lot of points. But when your defense gives up so many points like they did week 1 and like they've done so far today, you've got to pretty much scrap that to get back into the game offensively and score points.
2nd and 3, kicking out of the shotgun again, throws for a first down. Roy Williams hangs on to this one. He's down at the 40. Nick Collins had the coverage from free safety, and the Lions will use their first timeout. Reminder to stay with us on the Visa Halftime Report. Kurt, Terry, Howie, Michael, and Jimmy. You'll have scores and highlights from around the league on the Fox Sports ticker as up to the second scores and stats. That's the Visa Halftime Report coming up shortly. Week 1 in the NFL was so big for the NFC, JC, in these underdog situations with big wins by Carolina and Chicago, and those two teams in action right now as we speak. Holding up very well early in the season.
And those two teams beat what people think might be the best two teams in the AFC. You know, they beat San Diego, Carolina did, Chicago went into Indianapolis and beat the Colts. So the NFC right now, after week 1, looks like the tougher conference.
Look at you on camera against me. You are sharp. I look like I just got finished changing a toner cartridge or something.
And you're on your tippy toes too.
I know, I gotta shake myself here and get some momentum going on my own. Minute 14 left, first after the timeout. Pressure, Kitna gets it away, incomplete. Pressure has been a theme in this first half. And that big-time Packer pass rush has gotten to Kitna for 3 sacks already today.
Well, those guys up front know that the Lions have to throw the ball now. So their ears are pinned back. They're in those sprinter stances. They're trying to get up the field. They're not even thinking run. They're not worried about it. Right now, the whole focus for the Packers is let's get to the quarterback.
Aaron Cameron, the 2-time Pro Bowler, he told us yesterday that in each of his last 2 meetings with the Lions, they have used 2 right tackles to try to neutralize it. Kitna looks off some coverage, running for dear life, and he's got a man inside the 20. It's Calvin Johnson, as the Lions are inside a minute here in the half.
And there again, this time Kitna is able to buy some time with his feet, allows his receivers to separate down the field, keeps his eyes down the field, and they come up with the big play.
Boy, Kitna really took a hit there.
Going to buy some time here, then watch at the end. Oh, that's Nick Barnett, Cullen Jenkins, but that's a good shot, though. But that is a good shot. Obviously, Marinelli's upset about his quarterback taking a shot, but when you get outside the pocket, those guys can come. It wasn't a late hit. They didn't go to his helmet.
Well, the 22-yard completion is Detroit's longest play of the afternoon so far. They've got 1 timeout left, and they're inside the 20.
And you can see Nick Barnett's coming. And he didn't go to his helmet there. I mean, that's a legal play. Once you have a quarterback out there scrambling, he's running around outside the tackle box, you got to go get him.
So Kitna gets a moment after the timeout as Barnett and the Packer defense line up again. First time the Lions have been in the red zone today. Kitna with some time here, and that one's caught again by Mike Furry down to the 10-yard line.
You know, Matt, Roy Williams told us this is the personnel grouping they should be in. Last week, at the end of the half, they got in this 4 wide set personnel grouping and went down and scored, and they're moving again.
2nd and 2. Kitna looking to the end zone. Running away from Campman again. And he finally has to throw it away. 27 seconds left in this opening half. We remind you to stay with us for the Visa halftime show, as Rod Marinelli hopes we can get you there with his Lions on the board in some fashion here in the first half.
And down here closer to the goal line, that's where you've got to use the size advantage now of Calvin Johnson and Roy Williams. You got to throw the ball up, run those fade routes, and throw it up high and let those guys try to go get it.
3rd and 2. Williams with only 1 reception so far. The 10th play of the drive is Kevin Smith for a first down. And a flag is down in the backfield. Stops the clock with 22 seconds left.
Holding, 76, offense, 10-yard penalty, still 3rd down.
That's Jeff Backus making his 114th consecutive start, and he's had his hands full today with the former Central Michigan star Cullen Jenkins.
And it's a run play. You're going to see him right here against KGB, who's not a strong guy against the run. You just got to go drive him. Instead, Backus grabs him, spins him to the ground. It's an easy play to call.
Baju Miller back in there on 3rd and 12 on the passing down, as he usually is. Kicking it for the end zone. Incomplete, intended for Furry. And Charles Woodson had the coverage for the Packers. Well, the Lions are going to have to settle with the field goal try here in the closing seconds of the first half. Atari Bigby, by the way, their first time out. Bigby has turned into a time player. He had the interception late on Monday that sealed the win against the Vikings. He was the Packers interception leader in 2007. And good to see him okay to walk off the field under his own power. We'll keep our eyes on him for the second half. But notwithstanding, not much has gone wrong for Mike McCarthy in the first half. Complete highlights and recaps on the Visa halftime show coming up in moments. Kurt and the guys will have updates from Chicago and Carolina, where the Bears are on top 10-0 as they wind out the first half in Charlotte.
You know, the second half is all about adjustments. You go in at halftime, you figure out what's been working, what hasn't been working. You get rid of the things that hasn't been working and maybe add a couple things, and we'll see what kind of adjustments the Lions make. They've got to make them offensively and defensively.
Last year, Jason Hansen passed Hall of Famer Lou the Toe Groza for 10th place on the all-time scoring list. This will be a 38-yard try. And the Lions will have some points before halftime. Next week, NFL on Fox. Most of you will see the Bucs and Bears. Some will see the Panthers and Vikings. Others, the Lions and the 49ers. Check your local listings for the game and time in your area. The NFL on Fox returns next Sunday. And Atari Bigby will get an early start to the halftime intermission and a stay on the trainer's table. 14 seconds left in the second quarter. The Jason Hansen field goal caps off an 11-play, 57-yard drive. But the story in this first half has been Aaron Rodgers and the passing game of the Green Bay Packers.
And it's just been too much. They've executed it. And again, Aaron Rodgers coming out making his second start. You can't say any more about the kid than what's been said already. I mean, a lot of poise, a lot of confidence, and just to deal with all the pressure that he's had to deal with, really, I'm sure makes Ted Thompson, Mike McCarthy, this whole organization feel very good, because they took a lot of criticism for the decision to go with Aaron Rodgers, and it's really worked out.
Yeah, that's why Aaron Rodgers knows that it's not just pressure on himself, it's pressure on his head coach, on his general manager. They, after all, were the ones that signed off on his taking over this year. And the low line drive will be fielded by Will Blackman, or not at all, as it rolls out of bounds at the 13-yard line.
Free kick out of bounds. Ball will be placed 30 yards from the spot of the kick. First down at the 40.
Well, 14 seconds left before the halftime intermission, and despite the great field position here for the Packers, my guess is that it's unlikely they'll take a shot up 21-3 here in the second quarter. Go ahead, make me a liar.
Yeah, it looks like Mike McCarthy's calling a play over there. And with 14 seconds, you might want to take a shot. See if you can get a pass interference down the field or a big play, get in the field goal range.
Surprising to you, I know, JC. This is not the first time I would have been wrong about something like this. Empty backfield set. Packers are playing this like they're down 21-3 and flags.
False start, 75, offense. 5-yard penalty, still first down.
But Tony Moll was guilty of 3 infractions on Monday, along with Chad Clifton, who was flagged 3 times.
If there's one negative about this team, it's penalties. They were the second most penalized team in the league last year. You know, part of that is youth, but that's one thing that they've got to work on. It. You know, in this 5-receiver set, the ball normally comes out quick because you have nobody in the backfield to block for you. So expect this ball to come out relatively fast.
Despite being marched back 15 yards, the Packers do run a play. Pass complete to the tight end, Donald Lee, who's knocked out of bounds at the 36 with 8 seconds left in the half. You know, one aspect of the Packers' good line play, despite the penalties, JC, they're without Scott Wells again today because of the back issue, as Jason Spitz, the king of the leg press, is at center again. And so far, so good for what is a very good Packers offensive front.
Yeah, they've got good depth up front. All these guys have played, so they've got some experience. Even though they're young guys, you don't mind plugging them in.
Visa halftime show coming up in roughly 8 seconds from now. 8 game time seconds. Rodgers on the run, gets away from a pursuer and slides for a first down.
Yeah, you see him trying to slide and call timeout at the same time. He's saying, hey, we've got 1 second left on the clock.
And it looks like the Packers will not be credited with that 1 second as time officially expires here at Ford Field in the first half. But let me tell you, if that's the only thing to have gone wrong for Aaron Rodgers in the first 30 minutes of football, he's living well. All Packers on the road on this second Sunday of the NFL season. JC and I are back from Ford Field right after this. Halftime in Detroit, the visiting Packers on top of the Lions 21-3. Back alongside J.C. Pearson and Carissa Thompson, Matt Vasgersian, and J.C. Pretty hard not to be impressed by Aaron Rodgers in the Green Bay offense today.
Yeah, no question. We said in the open that we thought he was going to have to do a little more with his arm with the running backs being banged up. And what more can you ask? 16 of 20, 210 yards, 3 touchdowns, spread the ball all over the field, through it deep, through it short, through it intermediate. You couldn't ask for any more from Aaron Rodgers.
Using all of his receivers, Jordy Nelson, the top pick of this last draft by the Packers, on the board with a 29-yard TD grab. We remind you, stay with us. The Visa Halftime Show is next.
And we welcome you to the Halftime Report. Kurt Menefee along with Terry, Howie, Michael, and Jimmy. Let's get you caught up as to what's going on so far in Week 2. And Aaron Rodgers putting up big numbers. 3 touchdowns already. Packers with a 21-3 lead over the Lions. The Chicago Bears trying to go to 2-0 with both wins on the road this season. They lead by a touchdown at halftime. The Redskins trying to get their first win for Jim Zorn. Close game going into the half. It's 9-7 Washington on top of New Orleans. The Giants 13-6 on top of the St. Louis Rams. That one at intermission as well. What a first half for Adrian Peterson. 118 yards already. Vikings shutting out the Colts 9-0. Buffalo with a touchdown lead over the Jacksonville Jaguars down there in Jacksonville. Heat index 108 at that game. So far, it's the Tennessee Titans without Vince Young leading Cincinnati by a touchdown at half. And the Oakland Raiders in Kansas City, 6-0. Oakland on top of that one right now. But there's so much more coming your way when we continue with a Visa Halftime Report. Stay right where you are.
Back as we approach the second half at Ford Field in Detroit, where the Packers have been the story, the offense in particular. 21-3 Green Bay, the score at halftime. And let's talk about this from the Lions' perspective, JC. And what does Rod Marinelli need to do here in the second half? How do they adjust?
Well, where are Roy Williams and Calvin Johnson? They've got to get those guys involved. Whatever you got to do, those are supposed to be your big play guys on offense. They've got to get more involved. And defensively, you've got to settle down in the back end. They're stopping the run better this week, but now they're giving up tons of yardage in the back end. Guys have just got to step up and play. You can scheme all you want. He's just got to tell these guys, hey, it's time to man up, do your job, and make some plays.
You know, when the Lions offense moved the football on that scoring drive prior to halftime, it looked like they were going to McDonald and Furry more underneath, and perhaps in part because the big tandem of Johnson and Williams
good enough in this first.
210 yards, 3 touchdown tosses. And by the way, last year, as we continue to do the Favre thing unwittingly, Brett Favre did not have a 4-touchdown pass game in 2007. Rodgers was next to perfect in that first half.
He's done a good job of managing the offense, making good decisions, and he doesn't panic. He's a cool, calm, laid-back guy, goes through all of his progressions. So if a guy falls down in coverage or a guy gets beaten in coverage, he's going to find him because he's not panicking and just trying to throw the ball quickly.
Your fantasy update. For more on fantasy stats, go to foxsports.com on MSN. It's Rodgers with the big first half. Kevin Smith with only 26 yards on 6 first half carries. And Greg Jennings broke off the big play, the 62-yard reception, part of his 107 yards in the first half of this game. You know, for folks that watched the Packers last year, and you remember when Brett Favre went down week 13 against Dallas, and Rodgers stepped in, and there was a collective gasp heard as far away as Rhinelander and Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. Rodgers played very well. He was 18 of 26, over 200 yards and a touchdown in one of only 3 losses for Green Bay last year. That may have gone a little ways in dispelling some of the fear as to what would happen to this team without Brett. You know, and he's gone even farther against Minnesota Monday and in the first half today of assuring Packer Nation that all is well.
Right. Well, this organization knew what Aaron Rodgers could do. That's why they committed to him. They see him every day in practice. They've seen him in training camp over the last 3 years, and they were very confident in what this young man could do. And now the world is seeing why they were so confident in going with Aaron Rodgers and committing to him.
You know, Mike McCarthy told us yesterday that they never really wavered. They never felt anything other than the fact Rodgers could handle the load. As you take a look at the third-year coach's numbers within the division, they're very, very good. As a matter of fact, only New England and San Diego have better records within their divisions since '06 when McCarthy took over the Packers. Brandon Middleton set to return the second half kick. He's across the 15, across the 20. And wrestled down to the ground at the 26-yard line by Tramon Williams. Let's check in on the field with Carissa Thompson.
Well, guys, talking to both coaches at halftime. For Marinelli, he got beat on the ground last week, and this week he's getting beat in the air. He's got to get pressure to Aaron Rodgers, so look for the blitz. For McCarthy, knowing that, the line has to continue to do their job, and they have to establish the run on the Green Bay side of the ball.
Carissa, thanks. It was the run that really gashed Detroit last week against Atlanta. And it's been a combination of things here today.
Yeah, it has. And, you know, they wanted to change the tape. They said, well, this is the tape that everybody's going to watch, and we haven't done any better today.
They're still trying to establish that ground game with Kevin Smith. Cullen Jenkins makes the tackle.
And, Matt, what they meant is that when teams get ready to play a team, they usually go back 4 weeks and watch video from the past 4 weeks. And when you see what the Lions did in week 1, they said, you know, that's not us, but that's the tape that's out there and going around the league. And until you can prove that that's not you, then teams are going to continue to run on you. And now after this week, teams are going to pass on you. So now you got no chance. Teams are going to run and pass. There's nothing left to do.
2nd and 8 for Kitna. Time to throw it. And he's got it caught for a first down by Calvin Johnson. Johnson had a career best 7 balls for 107 yards in Atlanta. He has been conspicuously quiet here at home this afternoon.
And if I'm the Lions, you want to try to change the tempo up. Maybe go to your 2-minute offense. Try to speed the game up a little bit. Get in your no-huddle offense and try to change the tempo up. Huddling up every time, you see they're walking up to the line of scrimmage. And they just got to get more urgency.
Again, it's Smith running right, and he's across the 40. Johnny Jolly makes this stop from tackle. A 6-yard gain for the Lions. But Kevin Smith told us before the opener last week in Atlanta that his personal goal in his first year in the NFL is 20 touchdowns. And I'm not sure if he knew at the time when he said that or not, but that would eclipse Barry Sanders' franchise record of 17 set back in 1991. He hasn't really had the opportunity to sniff pay dirt in his first couple of weeks in the uniform. Johnson in motion on 2nd and 4. Again, it's Kevin Smith, and he pushes a pile for a first down. Brady Papinga in on the stop for the Packers.
Matt George Foster is out at right tackle for the Lions. That's the adjustment that they made up front. And Gosder Sharulis, #1 draft choice, is in at right tackle, playing opposite Aaron Campman. We talked to Campman about that in the meetings. We said, well, what happens when they bring the rookie in? He just got this big smile and said, a rookie's a rookie. We'll see. What that means is that watch out, because he's going to try to give the rookie the business.
Sharulis holds up there, but the pass is batted away by Al Harris, intended for Sean McDonald.
Campman's going to try to beat Sharulis up the field, bull rush him, and then try to come back under. Sharulis does a pretty good job there. Watch Al Harris drive on the ball, playing zone coverage, and instead of trying to play Roy Williams, he's seeing the ball, seeing the quarterback release the ball, and now he can make that break. They will knock it down.
2nd and 10. Kitna just one of his last 4. The quick pass to Williams, good for a first down and some yards after the catch, as Williams is bounced out of bounds by Aaron Rouse.
And that's what I mean about trying to change the tempo. Speed it up a little bit. You make Packers off guard. Look at Roy Williams. There's nobody on him back here. So now you get up, you throw the ball. And now it's an easy play, one of the biggest plays they've had all game. But that's because they changed the tempo. They hurried to the line of scrimmage, didn't allow the Packers to make an adjustment.
A 23-yard first down completion for the Lions. Detroit on the move. The 7th play, the drive, a pitch, the flea flicker back to Kitna for the home run ball, overthrown. Roy Williams was well covered in the end zone, however, by Al Harris.
Aaron Roos back there too. This is a one-guy route, so he's got no choice but to throw it down the field. They want to sell it as a run, so everybody else is blocking run. They're showing run, and they're hoping they can get those safeties down in the box and throw that ball over the top, but the Packers weren't fooled.
Just what you're talking about, the quick out, the quick little pass and go to Roy Williams, and then a gadget play on first down. So the Lions indeed trying to change it up. Now on 2nd and 10, Kitna hit as he throws, and it's almost intercepted. Charles Woodson had Sean McDonald covered well. The former Michigan Wolverine and Heisman Trophy winner who told us yesterday it's always good to come back to Michigan.
See Kitna looking around, just trying to find a matchup, a favorable matchup somewhere. McDonald against Woodson, just trying to get him to move around, and Woodson does a good job. They got to continue to try Charles Woodson. He's done good so far. They haven't really challenged him, but with the fractured toe, being a defensive back, playing bump and run, you got to make him plant off that toe, because at some point it's going to hurt him.
Lions trying to convert on just their 2nd, 3rd down of the game. That pass is incomplete. Crowd wants a flag. So does Calvin Johnson. And there's no such marker. Once again, Charles Woodson had the coverage.
Whenever a guy has a fractured toe, you can see Woodson right here, you got to make him have to plant off that toe, because at some point that toe is going to bother him. You can see he's quicker with the fractured toe getting to the ball than Calvin Johnson is out of his breaking. You can see him kind of wincing there. He's an old veteran. He knows how to cover up for that, but you still got to try him.
Jason Hansen hit from 38 at the closing seconds of the first half. This one from 49 yards away, and it's up and good. Points for the Lions in their opening possession in the second half. Well, the Lions still yet to get into the end zone here this afternoon, but an important field goal by Jason Hansen keeps it certainly a close game at 21-6. An effective drive authored by John Kipna results in the field goal. And Hansen set to kick it away. Will Blackman deep for Green Bay. And Blackman takes it from his end zone. Out across the Packer 5 and 10. Down center field. Juking a couple of tacklers and finally wrapped up at the 22 by Ryan Neese. Aaron Rodgers goes back to work for his first second half possession when we're back in less than 2 minutes.
You see that green dot on the helmet of Paris Linden. There's two guys that wear that dot, but only one guy can be on the field with that helmet at one time. And if Paris Linden goes out, then Jordan Dizon, he's got to go get that helmet out of this crate right here before he can go on the field. And one green dotted helmet has to go in before the other one can go out.
The NFL employing 32 extra people to guard those boxes with the green dots. Taking that very seriously, the communications issue on the defenses. And the ball's out. It looked like Rodgers was able to recover the fumbled snap. Or that would have been a huge break for the Lions. Now, by the numbers, still rather lopsided despite that last scoring drive by the Lions. Rodgers has thrown for 210 yards. Pressure has been terrific on John Kipna here today.
And they've got to make sure that they don't get complacent. It's easy to do when you're up 21-3 at halftime to say, hey, this is easy. Just start going through the motions. They got to come out and reestablish themselves offensively.
Nickelback Travis Fisher on the field, and the second down handoff is to Ryan Grant, who stopped at the 25-yard line. We talked a little bit about, oh, there it is, the trademark unbuttoning of the chin strap. Where have you seen that before in that uniform? You know, I'd imagine it's hard not to sit behind somebody like Brett Favre for as long as Aaron Rodgers did and not take on a few of his personality traits.
You have to, because you always study the guy that's playing in front of you. And you see what he does well, you see what he doesn't do so well, and you maybe subconsciously start to mimic what he does well on the field, his mannerisms, and, you know, we've seen a number of them.
Here comes the pressure. Rodgers able to escape again. He dances and stays in bounds for a first down. Boy, some unbelievable elusiveness on display by the first-year quarterback.
And look at him. First down, look at him. He's got some little swagger to him. But again, it breaks down up front. Dwayne White comes in. And look at Aaron Rodgers, the speed he has. Corey Redding thinks he has him, and now he just runs away from him. Look at him. He's not looking to go out of bounds at all. He stays in, gets the first down, and still doesn't go down.
And we've got a challenge flag being thrown by the Lions now. They'll want to take a look at it again to see if Rodgers went out of bounds before the first down.
But how about that? How many quarterbacks have you seen get close to that sideline and not go out of bounds?
Detroit is challenging the ruling on the field. The player stepped out of bounds before we had the spot.
They'll go under the hood. Did Rodgers stay in bounds for the first?
And going back to the play that's being challenged, watch Aaron Rodgers. It looks like he steps out about the 26-yard line right there, that left foot. The line judge is right on the spot, and he doesn't see it right there. He calls it out of bounds after the first down. So by the replay, it looks like right there that left foot is right on the line.
Here comes Walt Coleman to tell us about it.
After reviewing the play, the ruling on the field stands. First down.
Wow.
Detroit charged with a first team timeout.
Oh, my. All right. Inconclusive video evidence, apparently, as Rodgers dances his way for a Packer first down.
Again, he must have some nimble feet here to not ever touch that white line.
You know, maybe he stayed on the balls of his feet.
Yeah, evidently, huh?
I mean, that's
inconclusive.
That is unbelievable. But they took a good long look at it, and as is almost always the case, the officials have the best look and the best knowledge of the rule book. Play action with Lumpkin on the field, and the ball's out. Lions recover. Dwayne White came away from the scrum with the football.
And I think it was Dwayne White that came around the end and knocked that ball away. This is the first time Aaron Rodgers has made a mistake. He's hold on to the ball too long. Watch Dwayne White. He keeps working, comes around Clifton, and Aaron Rodgers is pumping the ball, and he holds it too long. Watch Dwayne White does a good job, even gets held by Chad Clifton, comes off and strips Rodgers and recovers the football.
Chad Clifton had his hands full with Jared Allen on Monday night. And here in the second half in Detroit, Dwayne White has worn him down. Beating one of the best tackles in the NFC. For 1st and 10, great field position for the Lions. The first down handoff is to Kevin Smith, stopped by Colin Cole after a short gain. And
you know, Matt, Chad Clifton played a great game Monday night against the Vikings, and Jared Allen, who led the league in sacks last year, held him to not only 0 sacks, but not even a tackle. Played well against Jared Allen, and today gives up a sack to Dwayne White.
Rodgers was only hit twice on Monday. That offensive line was brilliant against the big Minnesota defensive front. 2nd and 8 now for the Lions. They're inside the Packer 30. Here comes the blitz, and down goes Kitna. The second sack of the afternoon by A.J. Hawk.
He wanted to throw the ball to Calvin Johnson, but watch, he can't get off the line of scrimmage. Look right here. It's taking him so long to try to get off the line of scrimmage against Tramon Williams that, look, Kitna wants to throw the ball there, but he's taking too long. He can't get off the line quick enough, and Kitna's got to take the sack.
A 7-yard loss on what is the 4th sack of the afternoon for the Packers. So Kitna now out of the shotgun, 3rd and 15. With time, and it's batted away. Charles Woodson again with great coverage. All set up by the sack, and it's something that has plagued the Lions the last couple of years. Boy, John Kitna went down 114 times between 2006 and 2007, and that is one of the highest 2-year sack spans in NFL history.
And that's because they threw the ball way too many times, and Rod Marinelli said we can't throw it, we get too many turnovers, too many sacks. That's why they wanted to try to have a physical running game.
Jason Hanson from 53 yards away is up and good again, just short of his career. Jason Hanson keeping it close for the Lions. Well, 3 field goals by Jason Hanson have kept this a close game for the Lions, and they've tightened it up to a 21-9 deficit. Lions kicking it away. And Will Blackman brings it around the 20 and taken out of bounds at the 27-yard line. 8:08 left in the 3rd quarter, 21-9 Packers. Great pennant races around baseball. Fox Saturday Baseball returns on Saturday. Packers go to work from the 27. First down handoff is to Ryan Grant, and he hurdles his way to the 32 before being stopped by Alex Lewis. Well, guys like Alex Lewis, the former Wisconsin Badger, trying to make a big play again on defense for Detroit as they were able to force the turnover in the Packers' last possession.
Yeah, turnovers is what they need defensively, and Marinelli always preaches to his team to get to +1 in turnovers. He said if you can get to +1, you're going to win that game 76% of the time.
Packers did not turn it over on a single occasion Monday in their win against the Vikings. Grant again good for maybe another yard. And Jared DeVries makes the tackle from the left end.
Detroit, they've done very well against the run today. They've only given up about 70 yards rushing. You'll see DeVries at the end right here. Sean Cody, good job getting up the field. Chuck Darby comes down, but they've done a much better job today against the run. They've just given up too many big plays through the air.
Packers are 6 of 8 on third down so far today. Brandon Jackson in the backfield with Rodgers. Mike McCarthy liked to throw from these situations last year, as he will again. Rodgers going through his reads. And is that caught? It is for a first down by James Jones, who's had a nice afternoon on the road here today. First down, Packers. Calm and cool on third down and in pressure has been Aaron Rodgers in about a game and a half this year.
Yeah, and for the Lions, they're not a man-to-man type of team, and they're forced to be in more man-to-man situations right now. Their corners are really more zone-type corners, and they're not covering very well.
First and 10 from the 41. This is Brandon Jackson. Jackson gets around a corner and being chased by a couple of ends as the stop is finally made by Paris Lennon. Brandon Jackson rushed for over 100 yards for the first time in the regular season finale against these Lions last year.
Watch Jones comes down, blocks the safety. That leaves the corner, Ryan Kelly, one-on-one out there with Brandon Jackson, and he just misses the tackle. And that's the whole premise. You want your corners, if you're Green Bay, you want to come down and block the safeties, make the corners have to tackle. You can see Brian Kelly didn't get it done.
Another first down for the Packers. They're into Detroit territory. Jackson again with a big running lane down to the 40 before Daniel Bullocks can bring him down. An 8-yard gain. So Brandon Jackson holding up nicely after the concussion effects on Monday against Minnesota.
They've been able to run well against Detroit going back to the 2 games last year. And Brandon Jackson, he had 100 yards rushing one game. Ryan Grant had over 100 in the other game. But what they're able to do when you're able to run the ball, you control it, you win the time of possession because you keep the clock moving.
And Grant checks back in on 2nd and 3. Quick pass is caught by Donald Driver for another Packer first down. A 10-yard gain for the Pack.
And that is just a call between Aaron Rodgers and Donald Driver. Everyone else up front blocked the run. Last week it backfired on them. They had a big 68-yard touchdown pass called back because Tony Mull fired off and went down the field. That was the exact same thing, except the line engaged early and didn't go down the field. But that's Aaron Rodgers just making a play.
First and 10, and Travis Fisher comes in the nickel package with pressure. That one dropped. James Jones had it, hit him right in the frying pan. Corey Redding applied the pressure on Rodgers.
But Matt, it's so impressive to me how Aaron Rodgers manages this offense. You know, you would think that he's been starting for a long time. He feels the blitz coming. He gets the ball out quickly to his hot receiver. That's on Jones not to catch that ball, but Aaron Rodgers did everything he was supposed to do on that. And I know we've been talking a lot about Aaron Rodgers today and praising him, but he's played well.
11 of his last 13 with Jackson in the backfield and Driver in motion on 2nd and 10. He keeps, and it's dropped by Jackson. You know, Mike McCarthy told us in very diplomatic fashion yesterday that it's the system. people were worried that this whole offense was going to fall apart because number 4's not here anymore. The Packers are too well coached, and they're too talented at other positions for the thing to fall apart.
And that's the key. They're too talented. It's not the system. It's the players making the system. You can draw it up any way you want. Like I said earlier, you've got to have players to make that system go, and they've got good players, young players all across the board.
Movement on the line. Flags are all over the field. Chad Clifton saying that Dwayne White jumped along with Cliff Averill.
Neutral zone infraction. Defensive offsides. 79. Defense. 5-yard penalty. 3rd down.
They flagged Langston Moore.
And Matt, going back talking about the system, as you see these guys on that side of the ball right there, jumping the defense in the neutral zone. But going back talking about the system, I think people really underestimated how good this team is. In the offseason, all the talk was about Brett Favre, like he was a one-man team. This Packers team is good offensively, defensively, and on special teams.
So 3rd and 5 now. And again, the Packers convert on 3rd down. Plus yards after the catch with Donald Driver. The Packers are now 8 of 10 on 3rd down this afternoon.
Yeah, but again, you talk about the system. Well, Donald Driver and Greg Jennings, they all make the system work. And that's why I said the players, whatever system you have to have good players to make that system work.
Drive's gone 9 plays, 63 yards. The duo you just mentioned is checked out. They put the tight end Donald Lee in motion. Ryan Grant behind him. And Grant's inside the 10, taken down to the 6-yard line. Here come the spread guys again.
And again, the thing with Mike McCarthy, when you prepare to play the Packers, you got to prepare against so many different personnel groupings, so many different formations. Are you going to run your dime on and match up? Are you going to stay with your base personnel? And if you do, well, now there's mismatches because you have linebackers and safeties on wide receivers. So they try to exploit all the mismatches they can find.
Jackson the lone back with Rodgers. Play action. All kinds of time for him. Really all kinds of time. And he finally throws it away.
That's a good job by the Lions. Finding guys down the field to cover, not giving him an open receiver. Normally when he scrambles, there's a guy that's going to go deep, but there's not enough room. You're going to see coverage here. He's going to scramble to the other side, and guys are going to start running, but wide receivers, they go deep. Somebody goes deep. Somebody comes back to the quarterback, but they don't have anywhere to go. See James Jones, he's not sure, well, should I run to the corner or come back? Out in the field, he's going to go deep.
4 receivers set once again for the Packers now. And just before the play clock expires, Rodgers has it in and out of the hands of Donald Driver.
And that's really the same play that they scored a touchdown on in the first half.
Well, that's the first time in 4 trips to the end zone this afternoon that the Packers do not get on the board for the touchdown. At least not yet. First red zone trip, that is. So this will be a 25-yard field goal attempt by Mason Crosby. And the 2-time NCAA scoring leader at Colorado is up and good to make it a 24-9 lead for the Packers. Well, a field goal makes it 24-9 for Green Bay. They're on top here with 2:28 left in the 3rd quarter. John Kitten and the Lions offense having to play from behind again this week. A reminder coming up after football. Hold tight, don't blink. It's the Professional Bull Riders Built Ford Tough Series Grand Rapids Invitational as the world's toughest cowboys put it all on the line. Don't miss all the action coming up after football right here on Fox. Check your local listings for the start time in your area.
I know I asked you last year, but I don't remember what you said. Have you ever ridden a bull?
I think what I said to you is, look at me. Do I look
And what
like
does
a
that
guy?
mean?
Do I look like a guy that would come within a grenade launch of a bull? Brandon Middleton takes back the kick. And it's hit out of bounds at the 23. Let's check in Los Angeles with our friend Kurt Menefee.
All right, guys, things looking good for Chicago until Carolina's Jonathan Stewart scores his first NFL touchdown, and the Bears have lost Devin Hester in this game. He's carted off with what's reported to be a rib injury, but they're still holding on 17-13 on top in the third. Back to Matt, JC, and Carissa.
Now, Kurt, thanks. Both of those teams coming off upset wins in their openers. Carolina on the road in San Diego. Chicago with the upset win in Indy. 1st and 10 for Kitten and the Lions offense. Here comes another pass rush. And we've got a flag down on the play right before Cullen Jenkins was about to angrily throw Kitten to the turf. Put the flag back in the pocket.
So you got to give him a sack. Maybe they thought he came off so freely that he was unimpeded to the quarterback.
And that would be the 5th of the game for the Packers, an 8-yard loss. So 2nd and 18, Kitten out of his shotgun again. And this one is thrown just short. Incomplete, intended for McDonald. You know, JC, we talked about the good showing the NFC had last week in the opener.
And look at Matt Forte, the rookie, going up to Indianapolis, a big touchdown, and the Bears going there and they beat the Colts. Then how about DeLone and the Panthers?
Dante Rosario's last-minute grab giving John Fox an upset victory in San Diego.
Last minute, last play.
Yeah, last nanosecond win. NFC 3-1 against the American Football Conference in Week 1. Kitten rolls away from pressure. And the pass is incomplete, intended for Mike Furry. And the fans letting the Lions offense hear it again.
Yeah, and you know, last week there was a lot of frustration, especially in that first quarter. John Kitna getting into it with the receivers coach, Sean Jefferson, and guys arguing and yelling at each other all over the place. You know, we haven't seen that, those sideline tirades, but definitely a lot of frustration.
Sean Jefferson.
Yeah.
Just as frustrated as John Kitna. There's no question.
Kitna tried to laugh it off and tell us that they staged that whole thing to fire the team up. Well, maybe they need to stage it again.
Short punt that bounces out of bounds around midfield. Well, Greg Jennings has been Aaron Rodgers' favorite target so far in this game. A former Western Michigan standout with 107 receiving yards. And Greg's doing it in front of a big gathering today. The Kalamazoo native told us yesterday that he left 92 tickets for this game. And you might think, boy, there's got to be a lot of hangers-on in that group, a lot of freeloaders. 85 of them were for family members.
And he bought a lot of them. So you know he's still a young guy. Because veteran guys, they say, no, yeah, I'll get him, but you got to pay for him.
1st and 10 from midfield. Ryan Grant, and he's tackled for a loss. Ikaika Alama Francis with the stop. Let's get to know more about receiver Greg Jennings.
Hey, I'm Greg Jennings. A lot of you guys out there, you may marry a high school sweetheart, college sweetheart. I took it to a whole nother level. Elementary. First time laid eyes on her. Ding, ding, up top. She's the one. Baby, I love you. Thank you for giving me my daughter, Amaya.
Now that's original. I've never heard that one before.
Married his elementary school sweetheart.
Elementary school, he should have been worrying about playing in the sand and the swings and stuff. He's worrying about finding a wife.
Still wearing diapers, and he found the love of his life. I love it. We have a time taken on the field as Ernie Sims is being escorted off. Sims injured his right ankle in Atlanta last weekend. And again, we're not sure what the exact problem is with the outstanding linebacker, but he is being escorted off here in the third quarter.
And he's really the key defensively for them. He's so active, such a big playmaker, and whenever we talk to teams preparing to play against this defense, they say we've got to identify where number 50 is in the run game. If we can get him blocked, we think we can have success.
Well, they won't have to worry about him here. Rodgers' pass is caught at the 48. Lee Bodden had the coverage on Donald Driver. A 5-yard gain. And the clock keeps ticking away here in the third quarter. Well, there was a short stay on the sidelines for Ernie Sims as he checks back into the field. Calvin Pearson comes off. 3rd and 8 now. On what could be the final play of the quarter. Rodgers' pass is batted away. Intended for James Jones, and Lee Bodden had the coverage for Detroit. We have flags on the field, however.
Holding, 76, offense. That penalty's declined. 4th down.
We get Chad Clifton on another hold. Well, the Lions defense, though a little banged up on the series, holds. And it's going to bring Derek Frost on to punt it away for the Packers. Lee Bodden, of course, a player that came from Cleveland in the Sean Rodgers deal. And he was in the starting lineup today. Mike Furry deep for Detroit. He'll signal for the fair catch. And let it bounce into the end zone. It'll be Detroit football at the 20 when we start the fourth quarter. At the end of 3, the Packers on top 24-9. Well, the Packers struck first this afternoon in Detroit, and it's been a lead that they are yet to relinquish on top 24-9 as we start the final quarter in Detroit this afternoon. Alongside J.C. Pearson and Carissa Thompson, Matt Vasgersian, 1st and 10 for John Kitten and the Lions at their own 20. Rudy Johnson, the ball carrier, as he is out to the 22-yard line, tackled by A.J. Hawk. Well, folks in Detroit looking for Rudy Johnson to be perhaps a little more integrated in the offense today. Might have to wait another week. We haven't seen much of the ex-Bengal this afternoon.
Yeah, but you've got to think that he's a little more comfortable. This is his 2nd week with the team in the playbook. He knows a little more.
Got his stuff back.
Yeah, he got his stuff back. Well, at least the bags. He didn't get the stuff in the bags back, though.
2nd and 7. And Kitten for the sideline. It's a 1st down for Detroit on a nice sliding grab by Casey Fitzsimmons.
And the way their receivers have played today, then maybe that's the matchup they ought to go to. Try to isolate Fitzsimmons on A.J. Hawk. And we saw against Minnesota that A.J. Hawk, when he's in coverage, he's not the best cover linebacker there is. So if they can continue to try to isolate him in coverage, they might have a little more success.
16-yard gain brings up a 1st and 10 now from the Detroit 38. And Kitten throws the deep ball. Flag on the field. Williams was the closest Lion, covered by Al Harris. And we'll check in on the flag.
Pass interference, 31. Defense. Ball he placed at the spot of the foul. 1st down.
Well, they knew that Al Harris, he's susceptible to penalties. He's going to get a double move here. Watch. That double moving. Now just hands-on illegal contact. But as aggressive as he is, they should have been doing that all game. They know that he's susceptible to getting those things.
Johnson, the lone back. After the flag, a 1st and 10 as the Lions are into Packer territory from the Green Bay 45. this one caught by Sean McDonald, who tiptoes out of bounds just shy of a first down. You know, last year the Lions, or rather the Packers defensive backfield, was guilty of a lot of interference and a lot of flagging done. 13 PI calls, all by DIs.
And that's the way they play. They're going to be aggressive. They're going to be in your face, and they're not going to back off. And they can live with the penalties. I talked to Charles Woodson. Those guys, they said, hey, we'll live with the penalties. We're going to line up. We're going to be aggressive. If you grab us, we're going to grab you back, and we'll line up the next play and do it again. So they're not worried about the penalties.
The 13 pass interference calls, all by DBs. DIs. No drill instructors on the field today. Juggled and finally dragged down by Calvin Johnson. And the Lions, for the first time this afternoon, are into the end zone. A 38-yard touchdown pass and run.
And he finally beats Charles Woodson. And that's the thing about the type of defense that Green Bay plays. So much man-to-man and bump and run that it's high risk, high reward. It works out well sometimes, but other times it's like this. You try to make a play on the ball and you miss. It can be 6.
Johnson caught 4 touchdown passes in his rookie year. The point after is good. And the Lions get it back to a 2-score game. Detroit's first touchdown at home this year makes it 24-16 Packers. .38-yard touchdown toss and run by Calvin Johnson. It gets the Lions into the end zone for the first time this afternoon. It's the longest Detroit play of the season. In fact, they had a 38-yard hookup last week in Atlanta. Well, there's plenty of time for the Lions here at home this afternoon. Blackman takes the kick back from the goal line. He's still going. Past the 25, flags are down, as is Blackman finally at the 41. Or will the flags negate the great field position?
Yeah, it's coming back, but Blackman's been a threat, close to breaking one all day.
Return, illegal block in the back, 24, return team, half the distance to the goal, first down.
Jared Bush guilty of the penalty. Aaron Rodgers back to work in the 4th quarter when we come back. Well, the crowd's back into it here at Ford Field, as it's just an 8-point game here in the 4th quarter. Lions coming back down 21-0 at one point. And they have Rodgers and the Packers pinned inside the 10 to start this possession. On first down, the quick pass is incomplete, intended for Jennings. So remembering the success that the Packers had in the first half, JC, how would you go about directing the offense here in the 4th quarter?
Well, they've got to continue to change up the personnel groupings like they did early in the game. But really, the big plays. They haven't gotten the big play in the second half that they got in the first half, and that's why Detroit has crept their way back into this ball game. They got the one big turnover. This is a crucial series for the Lions defensively.
2nd and 10 now for the Packers. The quick drop and quick pass caught by Donald Driver, and he might lose a yard on the play. Let's check in with Kurt Menefee in Los Angeles.
You know, JC was talking about big plays. The Rams found one against the Giants. Mark Bulger to Torrey Holt. Holt covered well. Ball's batted away, but Holt on his back finds a way to pull it in for a 45-yard score. And suddenly the Rams are within a touchdown, 20-13. Matt and JC.
Oh, that's a video game catch.
Hey, that's a big play. That's a guy making a play. But the reason why I said this is a crucial series, if they can get a stop here, force the Packers to punt out of their own end zone, they're going to get great field position.
Pressure on Rodgers. He gets through it. But he's dropped at the 15 by Ernie Sims, who has healed up just fine after coming off for a play on the last possession.
And now they've come on and they've done their job defensively. 3 and out. The ball is going to come back to the offense. They've got some momentum going. Now the offense has to capitalize.
Aaron Rodgers not quite as successful here in the second half. All but 41 of his passing yards today came before the halftime intermission. And the punt gets knocked away. Detroit with the safety. Well, we got to take a look at that again and see just what went wrong for the Packers. Oh, not knocked away at all. Right through the wickets of Derek Frost. Wow.
You get backed up deep in your own territory, punting out of the end zone. Sometimes those punters get a little nervous.
Derek Frost in just his second game as a Packer. He had a great debut on Monday, averaging 45 yards a punt. But that's a manageable snap that just slips right past him. What a gift for the Lions.
Yeah, you mentioned it. It's his second game here in Green Bay. He can't catch the ball any better than that. He won't have very many more games in Green Bay.
Well, the Packers made a move, and they went out and got Frost, who had been cut by the Redskins in camp. But he is guilty of a costly miscue here. Let's take another look at what went wrong.
And really, he's got to catch this ball. That's too easy. That's a pretty good snap. There's no excuse for him not to catch that football. And now they've got to punt it away to the Lions. Really, the only good thing about all this is that the Lions aren't going to have or shouldn't have as good a field position as they would have had if he would have kicked the ball.
Boy, you look down for a moment, and then you see the ball in the end zone, and you assume that it was blocked. You never assume that something routine like that would happen. And the Lions will have the ball in pretty good shape at the 45-yard line. Big Sean Cody not used to bringing punts back.
Or Langston Moore. Well, look at Mike Stock, the special teams coach, talking to Derek Frost. He's like, what in the world happened? And Frost, you got to have a better excuse than I don't know. If you can read lips, that's what he said, I don't know. Well, that's not good enough.
Boy, more enthusiasm here at Ford Field than there was at opening kick. And Kitna's first down pass is caught for a first down by Roy Williams. Lions inside Packer territory. A 16-yard gain.
And you see they're attacking the middle of the field now. Calvin Johnson caught that ball in the middle of the field and scored. Now Roy Williams catches one in the middle. And when you get so much man coverage, it's not just about running up the field away from the guys. If you can run across the field, a lot of times you can create separation and get open.
The Lions have scored 18 of the last 21 points. To make this just a 6-point game as Rudy Johnson is in the back of the backfield. He's the ball carrier across the 40 and tackled at the 37. Flags down on the play.
Holding, 76, offense, 10-yard penalty, still first down.
Jeff Backus guilty of his second hold today.
Again, watch him working against Cullen Jenkins. He just pulls him. He just gets his feet too far out in front of him. He's anticipating Cullen Jenkins sliding to the outside, and Cullen tries to come under him. Just doesn't have that good base. Backus does it, that good base in driving him. He's using his feet too much to slide.
Jenkins is a terrific athlete. He ran the 100-meter dash and 300-meter hurdles in high school here in Michigan, believe it or not. As Kitna's pass is again handled by Roy Williams, working on Tremont Williams on the right side. A 6-yard gain. Rod Marinelli trying to harness some of that energy on the 3 and out, the stop And then the turnover on the punt. He stayed true, trying to establish his running game. And they are every bit in this one in the fourth quarter. 2nd and 14 now. Here comes the pass rush. And Mike Furry's unable to make the circus catch. Oh, that would have been one for the highlight reel.
Yeah, and if he could have pulled that ball in, or if Kittner could have thrown it out in front of him, he had a lot of room to run. Kittner's going to step up to avoid the pressure, and the ball just gets behind Furry. Not able to pull it in, but he had a lot of room in front of him to run.
They'll bring up a 3rd and long for the Lions, and they have really scuffled on 3rd down this afternoon. Just 1 of 9. And that's just a week after being 2 of 9 on 3rd down in Atlanta. Kittner's pass batted away by Al Harris. Intended for Calvin Johnson, who's begging for a flag. Woodson and Harris had Johnson blanketed.
They just drop into zone here, so they're reading John Kittner. Look at Al Harris back here. He's just dropping off, reading Kittner, and now he can get a good jump and a break on the ball from the top side, and Woodson playing underneath him.
Nick Harris had 2 punts inside the 20 last week in Atlanta. And the fair catch being signaled for by Blackman at the 9-yard line. Touchdown reception by Calvin Johnson, among the things that have transpired in the second half to bring the Lions right back into this one. And Detroit has picked a perfect time to start the Packers in their worst field position of the game. Ryan Grant stuck for a loss. Corey Redding.
And that's been the biggest thing. Corey Redding, the rest of this defensive line, good job. Look how fast he gets off the ball and gets up the field. Look at the jump off. And so now Clifton can't come down fast enough and block him, so they neutralized the running game, and then they now contain the passing game. Look at Aaron Rodgers' second half, only 41 yards passing. They haven't given up the big play and the touchdown. That's why they've gotten back into this game.
Craig Lumpkin in the backfield with him, and Rodgers back to pass. He dumps it off to Lumpkin over the middle, who's back to the 15 before being stopped by Travis Fisher and Dwight Smith. Boy, this game was all visiting Packers in the first half.
You've got to give the Lions a lot of credit as a team, offensively and especially defensively. They got down big last week. They came back in the second half, didn't quite get it done, got down big in the first half here, but they're not giving up. They're still fighting, they're battling, and they are very well in this game.
5 receivers on the field. The Packers have been brilliant on 3rd down, 8 for 13 today. Here comes a pass rush. Rodgers going deep. Into coverage, incomplete. Daniel Bullock's had a chance at the pick, and then Jennings looked like he had a chance after the ball was batted up in the air.
And this play was designed to try to get Bullocks out of the middle of the field. That's why they rolled the pocket to the right, hoping that Bullocks is going to go to his left and open up the middle of the field for Jennings. But you see Bullocks does a good job staying back and playing the ball. They ran this play Monday night against the Vikings, pulled the safety Sharper out of there, and Greg Jennings caught the ball down the field.
Packers go 3 and out for the 3rd time this half. Mike Furry takes the punt back from the 34 across the 40. And Furry is into Packer territory before being stopped by Brandon Schiller.
You see Daniel Bullocks there. He started the game today in place of Gerald Alexander.
Once again, fantastic starting field position for the Lions. They begin the drive at the Packer 47. Fitness pass caught by Calvin Johnson, who breaks a tackle. There goes Calvin Johnson. Touchdown Lions. Oh my, how the tide has turned in Motown.
And you see the adjustment that they made. They started throwing the ball to the inside and middle of the field. And they've been able to find a lot of room there. They did it with Johnson on his first touchdown. They did it with Roy Williams after that. And now they come back again with Calvin Johnson. Now he's able to catch the ball, have some room, and use that 4.3 speed to get down the field.
And all of a sudden, the Lions are a point after away from their first lead of the season. Calvin Johnson with 2 touchdown receptions in the half.
And I said it was all about adjustments at halftime. Watch him just come down and work inside. Gets away from the bump coverage by Tramon Williams. And now he can use that 4.3 speed. He can turn it on and get down the field. But you got to give this whole Lions team a lot of credit. You got to give Rod Marinelli credit for keeping them together. And it's something that he calls the cycle of the snap. You get the call, you play the play. The result of the play, whether it's good or bad, you forget it and you move on. They've had a lot of bad snaps, but they didn't dwell on them. They continue to play, continue to move forward, and they've made a lot of good plays of their own.
Calvin Johnson caught 4 touchdown passes in his rookie season last year, already 2 in the second half alone here today. Touchdown grabs of 38 and now 47 yards.
But you know the key, Matt, on that is when you look at his 2 touchdown catches, they let him freely off the line. They talked about how if you get your hands on him, he's a different guy and he doesn't run well. His 2 touchdown passes, he released cleanly off the line of scrimmage.
Well, it took an entire half of football, but the Lions are roaring here in the second half at home today. And Jason Hansen set to kick it away to Will Blackman with 7:41 left in the fourth, and Blackman being implored by his rookie teammate Jordy Nelson to take a knee. Let's check in on the field with Carissa Thompson.
Well, guys, when I spoke to Coach Marinelli at half, he said that last week too many guys tried to make too many big plays instead of just playing their position. He said he would remind his team of that at halftime and also remind them not to give up. And I'll tell you what, after viewing that bench a quarter ago, and now it is a dramatic difference.
And we're only about 15 minutes removed from that Lions sideline being totally silent and having no home field advantage in the stands.
Yeah. Not only that sideline, but this entire stadium. And now listen to it.
Brandon Jackson, the ball carrier, and after a gain of maybe 2, he is dropped by Dwight Smith and company. Well, this is the 6th second half possession by the Packers. They've gone 3 and out in 3 of their previous 5. The 21-0 lead gone. 2nd and 8. Dwight Smith wants it noisy for Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, you can't give those slot guys too much room.
And it looked like that Packer line was jumping again.
False start, 73, offense. 5-yard penalty, 4th down.
This time it's Darren College, and the Packers are replicating their penalty woes from Monday against Minnesota.
Yeah, and that's been a problem. Aaron Rodgers trying to change the protection here. I think he's trying to tell everybody to slide to the right, and College just jumps off sides. Credit that to the crowd.
8 penalties have been called on the Packers today, 6 charged to their offensive line. And it brings up a 2nd and 13. quick pass caught over the middle by Greg Jennings, and there he goes. A first down and much more into Lion territory. Daniel Bullocks grabs him around the neck to bring him out of bounds.
A good quick read by Aaron Rodgers, but Dwight Smith, the safety, was so intent on trying to disguise his coverage, he was too late coming down. He should have been right there to make that play on Greg Jennings. Watch Greg Jennings inside, and watch Dwight Smith. He's late right there because he's too intent on trying to disguise and staying deep that he can't get back to where he's supposed to be. And Aaron Rodgers finds Greg Jennings right there.
60 yards later, it's a little quieter here at Ford Field. The handoff to Jackson is good for a gain of 2.
And now if you're Green Bay, you want to take your time. You want to run the ball here, try to get some first downs, but take your time. Use all the play clock because you want the clock to be on your side. All you need is a field goal to take the lead.
2nd and 8 now for Rodgers and the Packers. Detroit has had all the momentum in the second half, in the fourth quarter in particular. The touchdown grab by Calvin Johnson moments ago, giving the Lions their first lead of the season, but the Packers charge right back. 2nd and 8 now. Incomplete, intended for James Jones, and boy was he hit. Paris Lennon playing angry.
James Jones just trying to run the slant. We've seen him run it a number of times today, but this time Paris Lennon gets over there quick enough to break the pass up. You know, this Packers offense, if you deny them the big play, they have trouble moving the ball down the field. They live off of the big play.
3rd and 8 now. 4 receivers set on the field for Rodgers. Here comes the pass rush. Rodgers gets out of harm's way. Incomplete. Oh my, in and out of the hands of Brandon Jackson. Boy, that's the 5th Packer drop here this afternoon, and that one was gift wrapped.
Yeah, and the problem with Jackson is watch him leave his feet to catch the ball. All receivers are taught, stay on the ground. Just go up and pluck the ball with your hands. Watch him leave the ground unnecessarily. There's no reason for him to jump. Just reach out and catch the ball.
Mason Crosby will line it up from 39 yards out. He hit from 25 earlier. And the Packers, with 5:18 left in regulation, go back on top. (27-25) Packers. Coming up after football, hold on tight and don't blink. The Professional Bull Riders Built Ford Tough Series Grand Rapids Invitational. The world's toughest cowboys put it all on the line. That's right after football right here on Fox. Check local listings for the start time in your area. Boy, the second half of this one has taken the tact of a wild bull ride.
Yeah, it has, but the big play is what's really hurt the Lions all day. In the second half, they did so much better of preventing those explosion plays, those plays of 20 or more yards until that drive. They give up points.
Fox Sports Ticker keeping you up to date on other games on the top right-hand side of your screen. A couple of games have gone final from the AFC. Still plenty of time left here in Detroit. Over 5 minutes of football remain. The Packers kick it away to Brandon Middleton. And Detroit will go to work from the 20. Well, you talk about the big play capability of Green Bay and how it can happen so quickly. Greg Jennings has been on the receiving end of now 3 big pass completions early this season for Aaron Rodgers. A career best 167 yards today.
But really, when you look at this Packers offense, that's what they're built on, big plays. They have the second most explosion plays, yard plays of 20 or more yards in the league last year. That's what this offense is built on, whether it's yards after the catch or throwing the ball down the field. And if you can deny this Packers offense from making big plays, then it makes it tough on them.
Kitna on first down, threw it right to Charles Woodson. And are they saying that one's intercepted? Indeed. Woodson credited with the pick, his 30th career interception.
Just not a good throw. Watch this ball, it's just way too low, is underthrown, and Charles Woodson, it's an easy interception. We saw Kitna do this last week against Atlanta, where he threw an interception in the second half and really hurt the team, and this is a big one also here.
But Charles Woodson has really had a big afternoon. The fractured toe, not a problem. He told us yesterday, I'm playing, I'm back in my home state. And he has had a big afternoon. First and 10 for the Packers. Brandon Jackson breaks a first down run. And Green Bay is inside the Lion 30.
And you see how that interception, it puts this defense in a real adverse situation. They just got off the field. They gave up 3 points. And now they don't even get a chance to get a breather. They go to the sideline and kick off, and next thing you know, they're right back out there.
Time continues to roll. We'll be inside 4.5 minutes by the time this football is snapped. First and 10 for the Packers. Quick pass for Driver. Dances away from a tackle. He's inside the 20 before Daniel Bullocks can bring him down.
And that's the second time we've seen Aaron Rodgers do that. And it's just a sight adjustment between he and Donald Driver. He's got one-on-one coverage with no safety help. He just throws it out there.
A 9-yard gain. Second and a yard. Lions have 2 timeouts left here. Play action. And Rodgers throws it away. Jared DeVries was the man making it uncomfortable for Rodgers. Boy, of all the third down conversions that the Packers have been responsible for today, and they're 8 of 15 on third down, none bigger than the one they're attempting here. Third and a yard. Jackson, first down Packers and more. Touchdown Green Bay. A 19-yard TD scoot by Brandon Jackson.
What a good job by that offensive line. The front side just pushes the Lions past. The backside cuts off the pursuit. Watch the front side. They're all going to block out. And then look at they cut off the backside. Great job by Jason Spitz, the center. And now Brandon Jackson has got a crease to jump up in. Take it for the score.
The second career rushing touchdown for Jackson. Point after's good. A very important point after, making it a 9-point game, all set up by the interception from the veteran Charles Woodson.
Look at the touchdown again. Great job on the front side pushing. They cut off the backside. And look at that hole right there for Jackson to jump up in. And that's an easy touchdown. Great job up front.
There's Brandon back there taking a well-deserved blow. Second career rushing touchdown. Again, he had a big rushing game against the Lions in the season finale last year at Lambeau. Kitna can only shake his head after the Lions had come right back here in the fourth quarter. The interception leads to the quick touchdown and a 9-point Packer lead. So it's a 2-score deficit now for the Lions as Brandon Middleton is back deep. Line drive kick takes a bounce. Middleton starts the return at the 6. He's trying to get around the corner and taken down at the 31-yard line by Tracy White. The NFL on Fox returns next Sunday. Some will see the Bucs and Bears, others the Panthers and Vikings. Some will see the Lions and 49ers. Check your local listings for the game and time in your area. The NFL on Fox returns a week from today. Final score in St. Louis now as the heavily favored Giants make it a 40-13 win over St. Louis to go to 2-0. Kitna's pass is caught by Sean McDonald. Whistle was not blown apparently, and McDonald breaks it out to the 40-yard line, just a yard shy of the first down. Way too early to scoreboard watch, of course, in week 2. But at some point when this one becomes a final, the Packers will look up and realize that Minnesota has lost today. And that one's picked off. Charles Woodson again. Touchdown, Packers.
He told us that he loves coming back to Michigan, and every time he steps in the state, he gets a good feeling about what's going on and what's about to happen, and you see why. Fractured toe and all.
The 4-time Pro Bowler really shining back in Michigan here today. He was among the Wolverine faithful, scowling about his college alma mater's fortunes against Notre Dame yesterday. But big smiles for him in the NFL today.
And you know, that's a veteran for you. A younger guy may have said, I've got a fractured toe, I'm not going to. Charles Woodson, being the veteran that he is and the Pro Bowler, what did he tell us in the meeting? It's way too early in the season for me to be missing any games. I'm playing. Watch him right here. Just a good job of just reading the route. And cuts under it. The ball is thrown late by John Kitna and allows Woodson just to break on the ball. And the rest is easy from there. All he has to do is catch it and run.
Well, for Charles Woodson, his 5th career interception return for a touchdown. For a guy who's played for a couple of different teams, JC, now for Woodson, 14 of his 31 career picks have come in a green and gold uniform.
I think since he's come to Green Bay, you know, he's been quiet. You don't hear a lot about him, but he's still one of the best corners in the league. You know, I don't think people realize, you know, he won a Heisman Trophy in college, so he's a great athlete, played both ways at times. And, you know, he's in Green Bay right now. He doesn't say a whole lot. He's a quiet guy, so he doesn't make a lot of waves in the media, and you know, he just continues to go about his business.
Well, the only defensive back to win the Heisman Trophy might have another award to put in his mother's house at the end of this season, as Brandon Middleton takes the kickback and is tripped up at the 15-yard line. Yeah, Woodson told us yesterday that Heisman Trophy is in the safest possible place with his mom.
Yeah. How about John Kitna, too? Last 2 times out, 2 bad throws. You know, he's got to take some of that burden on him and some of that onus that happened to him in week 1.
You know, the score at this point, 41-25 Packers, does not indicate how close a football game this was earlier in the fourth quarter. After all, the Lions had a 1-point lead, as short-lived as it was.
Just a few minutes ago. That shows you how quick turnovers can affect the game. And we told you that stat about Rod Marinelli telling him you're +1 at 7. Green Bay is +1.
Intended for Sean McDonald. You know, it's rather amazing. Last year the Lions were winless when losing the turnover ratio, and you've got to go back a number of years to find their first win as a team. Lost the turnover battle. 1998 to be exact.
And there's some truth to that statistic, because when you look at the Packers, they won 13 last year. 12 of those 13, they were plus in the turnover ratio.
Kitna slides at the 32-yard line. And a first down for the Lions. Clock ticking at 2.5 minutes. That's the longest streak in the NFL, by the way. 65 consecutive losses when losing the turnover battle. And that one's intercepted. This time it's Nick Collins who's going to take it back to the house. And more salt in the wounds of the Detroit Lions today.
Wow.
A 40-yard interception return for touchdown.
It's amazing how fast things can turn in the NFL. The Lions were winning just minutes ago.
Second career touchdown return off a pick for Nick Collins, and this one has really gotten ugly. Mason Crosby out for the point after. He's up and good to make it 48-25 Packers.
Nick Collins, number 36, he's just cuts under Calvin Johnson. Reading Kitna, waiting for Calvin Johnson to run that crosser. They've been running routes across the middle the entire second half, and he's just sitting and waiting. And look at Kitna. He doesn't even wait. You can see in the background Collins still running to the end zone and sideline.
The Packers have scored 24 points. Who's watching his computer on FoxSports.com, who's just got the score up, and he's thinking, there's got to be a mistake here.
Right.
What's going on in Detroit?
Turnovers will kill you.
And any fantasy league owners that may have started their Packers have had a scoring boon. A warning to go here at Ford Field in what is a rapidly exiting crowd. All of the Packer faithful are down and dead. Go Packers. Starting to snap open some cold ones at Stenny's Ale House. And left's lucky. Brandon Middleton is out past the. And the 2-minute warning is upon us. Boy, if you reach the last 5 minutes, you have missed a lot of 5 Packers. It was a big first half for Aaron Rodgers. Greg Jennings with it today. Dan Orlovsky has taken over at quarterback for the Lions as he finds Kevin Smith for the reception. So Dan Orlovsky, the 5th rounder back in 2005, who's thrown only 17 passes in the NFL and none since his rookie year, has a chance here in week 2. That one tipped at the line and incomplete, intended for Calvin Johnson. JC, it's really going to get tougher and tougher for the Lions to put a positive spin to a loss like this.
Yeah, they really are. And, you know, up until the interception started to happen in the fourth quarter, this stadium was rocking. The fans were into it. The players on the sideline, they were into it. And a couple turnovers here or there. 2 were returned for a touchdown. The other one led to a touchdown. And this place is emptied out.
Orlovsky out of the shotgun. And that one sails high, intended for McDonald. 40 fourth quarter points here at Ford Field this afternoon. Again, among the games that are final, Minnesota falls to 0-2. They like hearing that in the state of Wisconsin. 18-15, they lose at home to Indy.
And how about Charles Woodson? The life of a defensive back. He gets beat on a touchdown by Calvin Johnson. The Lions take the lead, but you got to forget that. You got to move to the next play. He comes out, makes an interception. They take that in for a touchdown. Then he intercepts one himself for 6.
4th and 7. The pass caught out of the backfield by Kevin Smith. Well shy of a first down, and the Lions will turn it over on downs with 1:19 left in the game. So the Packers on the verge of a 2-0 start in the black and blue division of the NFC. Carolina came back to defeat Chicago in Charlotte. A 20-17 win for the Panthers. So the Bears falling to 1-1. And we're going to have a new signal caller for the Pack as well, as the 7th round selection, Matt Flynn, will come on to take the knees for Green Bay.
Yeah. He's come in and take a snap.
Packer fans get a look at the offensive MVP of the All-State BCS National Championship game when his LSU Tigers rolled over Ohio State.
Ohio State getting rolled over quite a bit. got rolled up last night.
Yeah, at least in the big ones for sure. I think Pete Carroll's USC Trojans could make a little run if they were in the right division of the NFL. A disappointing home debut in 2008 for the Lions, as Mike McCarthy is just a few seconds away from going to 5-0 against his rivals from Detroit. Aaron Rodgers improves to 2-0 as an NFL starter. He had a 21-0 lead in the first half, and though the Lions came back to take a lead late, it ends up a lopsided 48-25 victory for the visiting Packers today. Charles Woodson among the stars. Greg Jennings, the Kalamazoo native, comes back to his home state to have a career yardage high this afternoon. J.C. Carissa and I are back from Detroit right after this.
Y'all ready to play a little football tonight or what?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Any football players? Any
Football.
quarterbacks?
Oh yeah, right here.
Yeah? Let's get started. Let's go play.
My friends and I spent an amazing day with Eli Manning. He led us through our own private practice.
Now, get the